Good day, it is I, Lord Pendlebury, and I just got a ba-da-dung as the camera, for some reason, disconnected as I switched to this live stream, or this live stream screen. So, yeah, you can't see my ugly mug this week. Well, if you take a look at the right of the screen, there's reasons why you should come and join this shabby outfit. If you think, oh yeah, this is the shabby outfit for me, well, do head over to evolutionsimracing.com. Website address at the bottom of the screen. Now, this week's highlights are Nascar Trucks at Watkins Glen. Sorry, I'm a bit behind on doing the highlights, so yeah, I couldn't remember for the life of me. But yeah, anyway, we will crack on with this week's highlights, and yeah, who knows, if everyone likes not seeing my face, maybe we'll just do all the intros like this. Well, hello then, and welcome to Watkins Glen. You might be thinking, Lord Pendlebury, why have you slapped a camera on this screen? You never usually do. Well, my ego simply will not allow my face to not be shown at the start of this video, so hello. Right then, let's open up the race information for this one. We are at the fantastic circuit that is Watkins Glen, a favourite here at Evolution Sim Racing. We are using the Cup layout that doesn't include the boot section, so no funny foot-related puns from me this week. But yes, we are in the sprint race, 25 minutes. It says with mandatory pit stop. I have failed to update that. No mandatory pit stop, though it is the NASCAR Trucks, so pit stops may well be quite likely. Right, let's bring up the grid, because as ever, qualifying occurred prior to the race. Dan Slattery proving that he is a master of a tricky machine, a 1:12, 1:43 for him. He was just 0.02 of a second ahead of Lord Pendlebury. Jeff Sharp on the second row of the grid in P3 with Will Thomas in 4th alongside. James Hurlow is then in 5th with Ricky Worrell in 6th. Steve Moore was in 7th and James Hurlow in 8th. Then, if we take a look to the AM category, Anthony Tuggy Marriott, a particular fan of Watkins Glen, he heads up on pole position. Big Dick's halfway in, Steve Everson is in 2nd. Chris Hulse and Chris Palmer made up the second row of the grid with Paul Nicholson and Brian Dodd the 4th. And, no, that's the 3rd. Fuck me. Josh Morris is yes, not leading. He's at the rear. Yeah, let's crack on. Well, they are about to round the final turn. The safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and it is then on Dan Slattery to decide when to go, and you could see the nose of his Chevrolet, whatever it is, lift, and he gets an absolutely cracking start as they head down towards turn 1. Jeff Sharp looking up the inside of Pendlebury, nothing doing there though, and quite surprisingly, everybody has got through there without any kind of issues. The Jeff S's are where they reside now. What's going to happen, if anything at all? I think nearly every other car on iRacing is flat out through the S's, and you don't really think about them unless you're in a touring car and your name's Jeff Sharp. But in these, a lot of throttle control required. I need a bit of tongue control as well. That really got out of hand. Now, it is okay to run out over that curb. If you are new to Watkins Glen, you can use that runoff area. And frankly, it is required in these. Now, that is lap 1 in the book, and we are looking very, very calm indeed. Let's bring up some race information. So, at the end of lap 1, Dan Slattery leads the way. Lord Pendlebury just 0.5 of a second behind him, and then Jeff Sharp a further 0.8 of a second in 3rd. Will Thomas and Ricky Worrell very close behind, and that is the battle you can see on screen at the moment. We then have James Hurlow, Jamie Nicholson and Steve Moore in 6th, 7th and 8th. Then in the AM category, our leader is currently Steve Everson. There he is, all running out across the grass. Simon is looking up the inside, an inter-category battle. Oh, squirming around under braking is Simon Moore. Drifting through the bus stop is Steve Everson. But yeah, Steve Everson is leading the way. We then have Anthony Marriott and Chris Palmer rounding out the podium positions as it stands. Then it's Paul Nicholson with Josh Morris right on his tail. Let's go and have a look and see what's going on there. Josh Morris putting him under considerable pressure, looking to the inside. Nothing doing though. We then have Chris Hulse in 6th and Brian Dodd in 7th. A big old grid of cars for this one. That's Paul Nicholson. Something has happened to Anthony Marriott. He is dropping down the order. He is going to be going back to the pit lane. He has had an issue there. We will go and take a look and see what happened. So, checking in on Anthony Marriott. Well, that's... oh, now it's the engine blowing up as well. Let's... we didn't really get a decent replay of that. Let's go back a little bit further. Out wide, and there is a cheeky bump out there. You get it. Wow, the engine just absolutely explodes. That's Will Thomas running a little bit wide. No, on the old track map, we still have Moo going around, and that's Simon. I mean, as proven by good old Mickey Dolan, I carry some considerable weight apparently. But I don't know whether it might be a step too far to start referring to Steve Moore as Simon Moo, but it's tempting. Oh, that's Lord Penderbury coming in from stage left. I suppose it's stage right actually, but no. Just something worthy of note. iRacing clearly well aware of Jeff Sharp being at Watkins Glen, because every time I have selected the crashes focus so far, it has gone to Jeff Sharp, and here is where it's most likely through the Jeff S's. An absolute weapon of a man through here. Oh, and Josh Morris now is in the pits. Oh, Jamie Nicholson has also crashed. I need to stop slandering Jeff Sharp and look at things. That is Jamie Nicholson recovering. Josh Morris, yep, that is him in the pits, which means he has had a crash as well. We'll take a look at both of those incidents in the not too distant future. Let's switch back to the crashes cam. Oh, surprise, surprise, it's on Jeff Sharp. Well, exciting things are occurring in the AM category, and that is Steve Everson still leading the way, has driven very well after a disappointing week last week in the LMP3s. He is looking to make amends and leads Chris Palmer by 0.6 of a second. And Chris Palmer looking to the outside as they head down towards turn 1. Will they both get it stopped? They will. Chris Palmer should have a better run. Indeed he does. They're about to come through the Jeff S's. Oh, Steve Everson running quite wide there. And that is a move for the lead from Chris Palmer. Plucks that from early race leader Steve Everson. Let's double check that old crashes camera. Oh, still on Jeff Sharp. Oh, well, I know what you're thinking. Jesus Christ, Lord Penderbury, we're a minute and 20 seconds beyond the halfway distance. How on earth have you not started playing everyone's second favourite game? Well, let's do it now. Let's take a look at the big winners and losers. Well, pro category is pretty cut and dry. Not many winners, and the biggest loser is James Hurlow, currently in the pit lane, I think. Or no, he might be out. No, he's back out on track now. But, yeah, unfortunate stuff for James Hurlow. We may be taking a look at that crash. I don't know. Depends where I put it into the highlights, really. And then taking a look at the AM category, cream is rising to the top for Chris Palmer. He is up 3 positions and is the biggest winner, and the biggest loser by no shadow of a doubt is Anthony Tuggy Marriott with a -5 on his position. Oh, and Steve Everson is now back in the lead. Something happened to Chris Palmer. Can't see that it's shown that he's gone off track, so I'm not sure what has happened to Chris Palmer, but as we can see from the time tower, he is now 2.1 seconds off the back of Steve Everson, and with just under 10 minutes to go on this one, Steve Everson will be looking to capitalise, hold that gap where it is, and take the AM category win. Meanwhile, in the pro category, Dan Slattery leading the way to the tune of 3.8 seconds. Jeff Sharp is right on the back of Pendlebury here as they avoid going down the chute and cut across this section of track. Unfortunately, no track names in my book, or turn names in my book, so I can't really tell you where we are, but we're coming through the last turn now. And Jeff Sharp trying to apply the pressure on Lord Pendlebury. A tricky car to drive. The gaps do tend to peak and trough between drivers a lot as they make errors and not so many errors. At this stage I'm just talking, so I think I'll shut up. I tell you what, chaps, I've been watching this one very closely indeed, and there's someone that is truly standing out, and that's this man, Chris Hulse. Once again, in a class of his own. Look at him, he's not got anybody around him. 16 seconds ahead, 21 seconds behind. He just radiates class, and that is why he will be in pro next season. Oh, and that's an absolutely hefty crash. The engine goes boom. That's well, yeah, let's try looking at that from another angle. Just gets it all mucked up into the barriers and then fires across into the concrete barrier. Hefty impacts there. Well, Steve Everson had been doing a pretty decent job of keeping Chris Palmer at arm's length. It was around the 2-second mark for the most part. However, he has made a bit of an error, and now it's just 0.3 of a second, but who wants to see that? Well, we do want to see that, so let's go back to it. Thank you, iRacing, for that cutaway. Oh, that's Paul Nicholson cutting the grass on the inside there. Good of him to keep maintenance on the track up. Chris Palmer is all over the back of Steve Everson here, and with just a couple of laps to go, can he get the job done? Everson running a little bit wide there. Doesn't tend to lose you too much time though if you do that. Anthony Marriott is also closing in on Paul Nicholson. This is for 5th place in the AM category. And that's Paul Nicholson. He's out wide to the left. Oh, he must have engine trouble. Off the track he goes, and he is being recovered to the pit lane. Chris Palmer right on the back of, where the fuck are they? There they are. Chris Palmer right on the back of Steve Everson there. They were within hundredths of a second of each other, so I assume... Well, I don't know, that gap has slightly widened, but Chris Palmer is making his intentions well known. That is Brian Dodd letting them both through. White flag is flying, so this will be Chris Palmer. It was his last chance. Here is Dan Slattery though. He crosses the line, takes the victory, ending up being 3.6 seconds ahead of Pendlebury. Sharp unable to do anything there, and Steve Everson, it will be a casual cruise to the line. Surprisingly, Chris Palmer is still running. That was a pretty hefty impact with the barrier, but he has got, well, I mean, he is guaranteed second place because Chris Hulse had been lapped. And as such, Chris Palmer just needs to finish this lap, and second place is his. Steve Everson, let's go and take a look at him as he comes through the final couple of corners, jumping on board with him, and what a fantastic view forward that is. More scaffolding than, I don't know, a building site, I suppose. And across the line he goes. Very well done. Steve Everson claims the victory. And into the barriers he goes. Sadly, he won't get a free kick for that, though. Right then, let's take a look at the results. And in the AM category for round 15 sprint race, Steve Everson takes the win. First for him with Chris Palmer in second. Chris Hulse, I've just realised I haven't updated you from Privateer, but he is keen to have his race team named as Definitely a Pro Racing, so we'll get that changed for you very shortly. Anthony Marriott is then in 4th place with Brian Dodd in 5th. Josh Morris was in 6th and Paul Nicholson in 7th. Now we're going to slow things down a little bit for the pro standings, because I think I'm going to run out of replay and I'm fed up of it keep on stopping, so let's put it in slow motion. Dan Slattery, the winner. Lord Pendlebury was then in 2nd and Jeff Sharp rounded out the podium in 3rd. Will Thomas, he was close and hot on the heels of Jeff Sharp for a fair old chunk of time in that race, but it didn't end that way. He's 11.4 seconds back from Slattery in 4th. Ricky Worrell, we saw his early lap dramas. He ended up in 5th with Steve Moore behind him by a margin, only half a second in the end. It was then Jamie Nicholson in 7th and James Hurlow ended a lap down. Well, we will take a very short break and be back with highlights of the feature race in just a second. Well, hello then, and welcome back to Evolution Sim Racing. We are ready for round 16, still at Watkins Glen, and this time it truly is a 45-minute feature race with mandatory pit stop. Now, time for everybody's favourite game. Let's take a look. Let's try this camera angle and see how that goes. Well, it's not going to be too bad for the first few cars. Might struggle afterwards, but here we go. Looks like we've got Steve Moore leading the way in the number 82 car, or good old Simon Moo. We then have Jamie Nicholson alongside. Second row is Will Thomas with Lord Pendlebury. Then we have Jeff Sharp. And where's Dan Slattery? Oh no, Dan Slattery is in the blue Hendrix machine. Let's see if we can go a little bit further down the order. Yeah, there we go. We then have Josh Morris. He is leading the way in the AM category. It's then Brian Dodd with Steve Everson alongside him. We then have Chris Palmer, Anthony Marriott, and then series leader and just absolute dead certainty for the old championship win and pro promotion, Chris Hulse. Well, they are getting ready to go then. Pace car, as ever, will peel off imminently. Steve Moore will be the person to go, and he is gone now, left it late. I'll tell you what, that is Chris Hulse. No, not Chris Hulse, I think Chris Palmer with an absolutely scintillating start towards the back in the AM class. Through turn 1, things all were looking okay, but that is absolute carnage for Chris Palmer. Got a good start. That's James Hurlow coming out of the pits because he missed the start. And that is for the lead in the pro category. Simon Moore on the inside line, and Will Thomas sweeps around the outside. He will look to charge away from the onrushing pack. And already, I should say, a fairly hefty gap. Oh, everybody scampering out wide to varying degrees. It's already a tight three-way battle between Nicholson, Pendlebury and Slattery as they head across the line. Let's bring up some race information. Oh, and Jamie Nicholson has got it slightly wrong coming out of turn 1. Pendlebury looking to make some moves. And this is the battle in the AM category between Josh Morris and Anthony Marriott. Josh Morris picked up some damage. Marriott, oh, it's all looking very congested. What was going on further back? And Marriott gets past Josh Morris. Oh, Morris scampers across the grass, and he has got Josh. No, he's got Chris Palmer. No, he's got somebody. No, that's James Hurlow of the pro category on his outside, and Hurlow goes all the way around the outside. Slattery has now made a pass for Nicholson. It's all going off in this race, and I am missing basically all of it. Oh, Nicholson slides out of the final corner. That'll kill his momentum. Will Thomas comes through, and he is 0.7 of a second faster than Jeff Sharp on that lap, and it has opened up a 2.1 second lead. And Anthony Marriott looks like he has just made a move on Chris Hulse. For the second lap running, Anthony Marriott has gone past someone on the outside on the way into the bus stop. Looking to make amends after the first race's disaster. And he is already up into second place, and it's a 5.1 second to race one's winner, Steve Everson. Dan Slattery is right on the back of Pendlebury as they come out of the final turn. Jeff Sharp now sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's 0.6 of a second faster than Will Thomas, so that reduces that gap to around 1.4. Now that's Chris Palmer looking to the inside of Chris Hulse into turn one, and he gets that move done. He has been closing down over the last couple of laps. Impressive. His bumper seems to have reattached itself without him going into the pit lane. That is some excellent work from the car. Now looking back at the battle for third place in pro category, and Simon Moo is, I don't want to say the cork in the bottle, but it appears that Pendlebury and Slattery have a bit more pace, and it's getting a bit congested behind him. Moo goes out wide a little bit there, and again will that give Pendlebury the opportunity to get him down in towards turn one. A little twitch. Pendlebury takes a look to the inside. As it stops, Moo leaves him a lot of room and allows Slattery through as well. May not have been by design that, but both Slattery and Pendlebury up into third and fourth respectively. Oh, that's Marriott going round. Keeps it out of the barriers. But he has already had an accident. You can see he's dropped down from second place to fourth place. And I think now is a good time for us to take stock of what is going on. Oh, that is Pendlebury. Oh, it almost ends in disaster for both him and Slattery, squirming all over the place. Got it all wrong going into turn one, went well out wide, and you'd have thought by doing that he'd have just been able to neaten the car up, but clearly trying to get the power down too soon, squirmed all over the place. But yes, as I say, let's take stock of where we are then. So in the pro category, that is our leader, Will Thomas. Whilst Jeff Sharp did manage to close him down very quickly, that gap has now stayed at around 1.4. Will Thomas absolutely sliding that car all over the place. Then it's Jeff Sharp, Dan Slattery, Pendlebury just 0.4 of a second off the back of Slattery, having just had that moment at the start of this lap. Then we got Steve Moore 1.3 seconds back, 1.4, 1.5 seconds back nearly. Jamie Nicholson is then in 6th place, and James Hurlow in 7th, having started from the pit lane. In the AM class for the second race running, that is our leader, that is Steve Everson, and he is holding that gap very nicely to Chris Palmer. In fact, he's extended it by a couple of tenths in the last couple of laps, so he's looking nice and comfortable out front. Chris Palmer, as we can see, is in second with Chris Hulse 4.5 seconds further back. Anthony Marriott, we just saw him have that half spin, he is in fourth, and then we've got Brian Dodd in fifth, and Josh Morris, having had that accident earlier on, is went into the pit lane, but he's back out on track, albeit a lap down. And you can see there Jeff Sharp right on his tail now. And lovely little drift there from Will Thomas, and Sharp takes the lead. Thomas perhaps his tyres are done and dusted. Wow, this is a masterclass in drifting. Won't be getting any points for this, but who's the real winner here? They're having a load of fun. That said, Jeff Sharp is a massive fan of this combination, so I'm sure he is having a lot of fun too. Oh, Will Thomas squirming all over the place. And that is Dan Slattery up into second place in the Pro category. Pendlebury only 1.3 seconds behind Will Thomas at this point. Those tyres will be roasting. And in the AM category, has been quiet for a while, but Anthony Marriott has been slowly closing that gap to Chris Hulse. And you can see there, both in shot, carrying a fair bit extra pace, running some slightly different lines to Chris Hulse. And he's got a good overlap there, Anthony Marriott. Heading up towards turn 1. He's got the inside line. Can he get it stopped though? He's running wide. And Chris Hulse sweeps back underneath him. So he will hold on to that final step of the podium for the moment. But it does look like it's coming. And Will Thomas has now fallen outside of the podium places. Pendlebury has just got past him. Pendlebury having a good old wiggle coming out that final turn as well. Oh, Will Thomas potentially going to look back at him. No. Gets out the throttle. Will continue living his best life. Now this is where Marriott made the move last time, and he's got the momentum again. He'll be right on the back of Hulse. Let's see what he can do this time. Going a long way across to the right. That'll make his corner entry a little bit more tricky, but he has got the car stopped this time and claims the position. Third place then for Anthony Marriott, and he drives away from Chris Hulse coming out of turn 1. Oh dear, what has happened here? Pendlebury's bumper has... Well, it's made of rubber, apparently, the way it's bouncing around. He has had an absolute mare going into the pit lane. Third place was his. That is now looking far less than ideal. He is going to drop all the way to the back of the pack. He has got some extensive repairs and a tow to go along with it. Well, this is what happened to Lord Pendlebury then on pit entry. Just lights up those rear tyres, and those are some seriously weighty water buckets, but his engine died. Fortunately, they could replace it in just 1 second once he did eventually get back to the pits. Well then, we are just about over half distance. Let's bring up the pit stop information, see who stopped and who hasn't. Well, Steve Moore is on 0 stops. He is in shot at the moment. He is leading the Pro category. Everybody else has stopped at least once. James Hurlow's gone for the bold 3-stop strategy. Doesn't seem to be paying off for him though. Will Thomas looks like he is also retired now. Tired of drifting. And then in the AM category, we have Steve Everson leading the way. But he should come back out in the lead, I believe. Maybe he won't. Not sure what's gone on there, but here is good old Steve Everson. No, that's Lord Pendlebury. Where's Steve Everson gone? Oh, he's up here. He was leading the way, but he has picked up a little bit of damage on that car. Not sure whether I've missed something there. But, yeah, both him and Chris Hulse are yet to stop. Brian Dodd also yet to stop. Well, he's stopping right now, actually. So, yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out in time. But looking at those gaps, the big battle in the pro category is Dan Slattery. Jamie Nicholson's 32 seconds back, and Pendlebury's 17 seconds back from Jamie Nicholson. So both of those two have got a lot of work to do if they want to get anywhere near the podium places. Well, things have got awfully congested all of a sudden in the AM category. Chris Palmer is now leading the way, having had Steve Everson and Chris Hulse pit. They do have a Simon Moo in the middle of all of them as well. Oh, and Moo runs out wide into the fields that he so loves to graze upon. And that has held up Anthony Marriott. That will not go down well. He's in the middle of a battle for the lead. That chance is slowly being eroded away. Chris Palmer and Steve Everson very close to each other. Oh, a little bit twitchy. That's a tree. He's looking up the inside. Oh, there's contact. They both go round. Anthony Marriott says, "Thank you very fucking much." That's glorious for him. Not so glorious for these two. We will take a look at the replay and unpack that. Well, the big drama in the AM category was this one between Everson and Palmer, and really difficult to see who's to blame for that, but don't worry, I will ensure we get to the bottom of this. So let me just find a better camera angle. Let's go for the blimp. That is always a fantastic indicator. And see Everson. Oh, I mean, I feel it feels a bit of a racing incident after I've just boldly declared that I'm going to find out who's to blame, but I think it probably was a racing incident. I think Palmer, did he? Oh no, let's take another look at it. Now, I think Everson has probably got enough of an overlap to earn the right to some room, and I'd say he does have room, but I think what I hadn't noticed until that time round, let's have a look at it from exactly the same angle again, but I think Chris Palmer turns in and the rear end is starting to get away from him. Yep, he has already started losing that rear end, which is why he probably comes across a bit more than Everson's expecting. So I'm going to go racing incident there, leaning potentially towards Chris Palmer blame because, I don't know, I guess he wasn't controlling his car in an appropriate manner. If you disagree with me, do feel free to keep that opinion to yourself. I think he's definitely got the pace on Palmer here, though. You feel like it's only a matter of time, but he's only got about 8 or so minutes to get it done, and he's not going to get it done now because that is the barriers. Just losing it on the way out of last turn. But, well, that looks like positions are going to be largely decided then for the AM category with just 8 minutes to go. That is Chris Hulse off the back of Steve Everson, but we believe he's sandbagging today to try and make the point that he shouldn't be in the pro category. We know your games, Hulse, but yeah, provided nobody makes any mistakes, I'd imagine this is probably how it's going to end, and it's probably how it's going to end across the pro category as well. The gap's fairly chunky there. Dan Slattery has made a bit of an error here. He is he's now just over 2 seconds behind Jeff Sharp. Steve Moore's 34 seconds behind those two. Jamie Nicholson only 3.7 seconds off the back of Steve Moore, and he is closing that gap. And equally, Lord Pendlebury, that gap we last checked it, I think it was around the 15-second mark. It's now in the high 7 seconds. So he's closing that gap as well. So they're kind of closing in a bit like an accordion, but there's not too long of this one to go. Will they manage to close those gaps up before the end? Well then, I should probably start getting my money's worth out of SDK Gaming. So we're going to make use of the time delta information, and you can see there in the bottom right hand corner that gap between Jamie Nicholson and Moo has really come down a fair bit. It was standing at 43.5 seconds, and it's now 3.9 seconds. I believe that... No, that wouldn't have been the pit... Oh, it would have been the pit stops, because Moo only came in for his pit stop a few laps ago, so that makes sense, but that gap has been closing down. Equally, let's take a look at the gap between Pendlebury and Nicholson. It was standing at 13.1 seconds, now it's 7.2. And actually, looking at the whatchamacallit, you know, whatever that thing's called, the standings in the top left, it's now at 5.7 seconds. And whilst we're having fun with this, let's take a look at the gap between Sharp and Slattery. Now, that's a bit more erratic. Now, over the last 5 laps, Sharp has definitely increased that gap. But, as you can see, in the last couple of laps, Slattery has been reeling him back in. So, I hope you enjoyed that statistical data. Heading down towards the bus stop. You can see there the closing speed. Pendlebury taking it quicker, and that is Nicholson running out wide. And, well, he's so wide that we can't even see him. He's still there. But Pendlebury gets up the inside. Oh, Pendlebury gets all crossed up. And that will allow Nicholson... Nicholson gets all crossed up. They're still side by side. But Pendlebury just about claims it. Let's head back to the leaders then in the pro category. And, oh, Slattery, I think he's made a mistake. He has. And that will ruin his charge. And that is Jeff Sharp heading across the line, claims the victory. A good win for him. Slattery ends up 1.4 seconds back. It's a long old gap back to Steve Moore. Where is Chris Palmer? Well, there is Chris Palmer. They are a lap down, so he will be crossing the line this time round to take the victory. Whoa, Chris Palmer? No, Anthony Marriott. Where's Anthony Marriott? Sorry, Anthony Marriott. I'm not sure why I didn't think... It's because you were already out your car, blimey. Anthony Marriott has taken the victory in the AM class. Chris Palmer in second, and Chris Hulse will take third. Well then, let's bring up those race results. Starting this time with the pro category. Jeff Sharp wins by 1.5 seconds. Dan Slattery, Steve Moore 43 seconds back. Then it was Pendlebury. He had troubles, we shall say, getting into the pit lane, inspired by one Ricky Worrell, one would assume. Then it was Jamie Nicholson in 5th place, with James Hurlow in 6th. Will Thomas, well, I say James Hurlow in 6th, he was 18 laps down, but comes in 6th, and Will Thomas was 19 laps down in 7th. Now taking a look at the AM standings. Anthony Marriott, he was in 1st place with Chris Palmer in 2nd, and Chris Hulse rounding out the podium. Steve Everson obviously got caught up in that drama with Chris Palmer, and that is why those two have ended where they ended up. That's a nice concise message for you. Brian Dodd was then in 5th with Josh Morris in 6th. I'm sorry, Chris Hulse, I still haven't changed you to only a pro racing. I promise I will try and remember for the next race. But yeah, for now, let's go and take a look at the point standings. Well then, starting off with the AM category, Chris Hulse leads the way, and well, yes, it's well and truly wrapped up for him. 116 points ahead of Anthony Marriott in 2nd place. You then have Chris Palmer in 3rd, he's on 191 points, leading Steve Everson by just 1 point. Of course, going into the we're not into the final round of the season yet, but going into the final couple of rounds of the season, all to play for 2nd place in the AM Championship. It'll be better for all of them once Chris Hulse is ejected from there and into the pro category. We then have Josh Levy on 123 points, Brian Dodd just 4 points back on 119. 5 points further back is Paul Nicholson in 7th on 114, with Axel Edwards then some points back on 91 points in 8th. Josh Morris is then on 45 points, with Mark Audley on 23, Travis Dorado in 11th on 18, and Mickey Dolan in 12th on 10. Now taking a look at the pro standings, Dan Slattery leads the way. There's a new thing going on which I didn't notice in the pro category, but it's a points per race, which is a nice handy little stat. I'm enjoying it very much. Fucking hell, Dan Slattery is 341. I did not know Slattery was that far ahead of me. Well, I mean, I might as well give up now. Actually, yeah, I might as well, because I don't think it'll mathematically be possible for me to win anymore. Anyway, Dan Slattery leads with 341 points. Lord Penderbury in second on 273 points, just 8 points ahead of Jeff Sharp on 265. Jamie Nicholson's in fourth with Will Thomas in fifth. Steve, there's just 2 points separating those two as well, so everything to play for fourth place in the championship. We then have Steve Moore in sixth on 157 points, leading James Hurlow by just 7 points. We then have Ricky Worrell, he is in 8th place, and he is on 96 points. Nelson Radio's in ninth on 18 points. Well, thank you very much for joining us. If you've got this far, which I'm sure you haven't done, going off of the average viewing length times on the videos. But nevertheless, if you have got this far, thank you very much. Next week we are racing the... Now, what was it? Oh, it's not even like I can pause the recording whilst I go and check. What the fucking hell was it? You know what? Let's go into League Info and find out. It doesn't have to do the trucks. So it was GT4s at Bathurst. Yeah, I wasn't going to remember that on my own. So yeah, come and join us for that next week. But anyway, for now, catch you later.